Hi guys, welcome back to RUE MORGUE TV. I'm Executive Editor Andrea Subasati here with Dante of the Dead, and we'd like to invite you to join us on our social media channels for a look at what life is like at the RUE MORGUE Manor. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We're there and we hope to see you there soon. Until next time.
Hi, this is Monica KUEBLER from RUE MORGUE magazine, and on today's installment of Grim Reader, we are doing our very first books to screen, and we are looking at Joe Hill's 2013 novel, NOS4A2, and its translation to the upcoming AMC TV series, which debuts next month. Now, before we begin, we should probably spend a few minutes talking about the Joe Hill novel for those of you who haven't read it. It is, of course, Hill's take on the vampire mythology, though Charlie Manx, the main villain at the center of the book, isn't a vampire in the way that you might think. He doesn't drink blood, but rather, through the use of his Rolls-Royce Wraith, he hunts the highways and byways of America, searching for young children to kidnap in order to feed off of their souls. The book's other main character, Victoria, or Vic as she's known, basically has to stop him. And I'm not going to give away too many spoilers because for the purposes of this, we don't know entirely what's going to stay true to the book and what's going to change in the TV series. But that's the nuts and bolts to get you started. What do readers want in a book adaptation? That's always a big question. And I think if you polled most readers, they'll tell you that they don't want an exact scene-by-scene recreation of the book because books don't quite function the same way on a screen as a movie does, because a movie is built for a visual medium. So obviously, when we're adapting a book, there are certain things that readers do want. And those things include, they want the theme to be preserved, they want the book's atmosphere to be preserved, and they want to recognize the most important set pieces and touchstones, and they want to see some of their favorite scenes brought to life. Now, if we take those elements into account and compare them to what we've seen in the first few episodes of the show, I think I can say that readers of the book are going to really like this series. There are a lot of touchstones that they are going to immediately recognize and that translate on screen much the same way that we pictured them in our heads while we were flying through those pages. And that includes the graveyard of what might be, which Charlie Manx takes Bing through when he's first giving him the lay of the land of his new job. It also includes the shorter way bridge that Vic takes when she travels around the country. The very iconic Rolls-Royce Wraith is front and center in the series. And of course, there's Maggie Lee and her library. And as a book lover, this one's a bit of a big deal to me. The Scrabble tank aquarium is there. And yes, very hard to clean. And so is the purple bag where she reaches her hand in for her answers to her questions. Other things that come over from the book that readers are absolutely going to love are the language and the terminology. Knife, strong creatives, inscapes, all those words are used in the AMC series with frequency.
You can find lost children. I know what you're thinking. Why you? Don't you see you've been chosen? I don't want to be chosen.
Okay, now that we've talked about the things that are staying that readers will recognize, let's talk about some of the changes that have been made. First and foremost, and probably most majorly, is that there has been a decision to age up Vic. So the first time that she encounters the shorter way bridge, she is not 8. She is in fact now in her teenage years. And this, of course, also changes how she mentally deals with the bridge. In the book, when she encounters it as a younger kid, yeah, she does worry that it's a figment of her imagination or she might be maybe insane, but she also is a lot more gung-ho about going through it. Whereas on the show, immediately, the first time that Vic rolls onto the bridge, you get the sense that she feels immediately uncomfortable, and she in fact doesn't actually go through it the first time she rolls on. She withdraws. So obviously, changing the character's age does make some narrative changes to the story in order to make it believable. But I don't think that ultimately it's going to change the way NOS4A2 rolls out. And yes, in book form, there is a certain poetry to having Vic discover the shorter way bridge at when she's the same age as the kids that Manx is kidnapping. But once again, that's nice in a novel, but a little harder to make play on the screen. The next major change from the book to the TV show comes in the form of the characters and their closeness to each other. Whereas in Joe Hill's novel, Bing and Maggie and Vic all kind of trundle along on their own paths for probably the first 50, 60, 70 pages. In the TV show, this is all being compressed. So for instance, Bing is still a janitor, but now he's a janitor at Vic's school. So he immediately has an interaction with her. In the first episode, you see her bringing him a comic book. Similarly, Maggie's stakes have also changed in the show. Whereas Maggie in the book was a strong creative that was getting the Scrabble tiles telling her about Manx and the Wraith, here she has a direct connection to the boy Danny, who we see kidnapped in the show's opening sting. She was his librarian, and she apparently walked him to the library, I believe it was, every day. So she now has this serious vested interest in finding Danny and the Wraith, much more so, I think, than she did in the novel. And finally, the other thing that has sort of changed is, in the book, Vic's family has a lot of drama and a lot of arguments. And these have really been brought forth in the series. You know, it's not something Vic is necessarily hearing from another room anymore. Those confrontations are happening on screen, and they are loud and vicious, and they are often the thing that sends Vic sailing on her bike towards the bridge in the series. So the adaptation has made all those things more central or more vibrant, because we need that when we're watching a show. You know, we can't spend the same amount of time in a character's head on a screen as we can on the page. So those kind of changes make everything feel more immediate and more connected. On a personal level, one of the most interesting changes from NOS4A2 the book to NOS4A2 the TV series came for me in the form of the characters' motivations. And I say that in that from the book to the TV series, Vic and Maggie's motivations surrounding finding Charlie Manx and the Wraith are almost reversed, in that in the novel, Maggie is the one who's warning Vic, don't go after him, don't use your bridge for this, whereas in the TV show, Vic is very much the one, and this is a direct quote from the show, she says, I don't want to be chosen, the tiles are wrong, and she attempts to storm out of the library. This is a very interesting change, and I'm not sure why this one was made. I'm guessing it has something to do with Vic being aged up for the series, and also, as I spoke to earlier, giving the emotional weight to Maggie with her knowing the young boy who was kidnapped. But it is a major change from the novel, because we see, obviously, in the novel, Vic searches out Charlie Manx and the Wraith very early on, and she does it when she's angry and she's looking for trouble. And she goes and finds Maggie through the bridge when she's seeking answers for herself. Whereas in the TV show, she finds Maggie through the bridge when she's angry after an argument between her parents. Interesting. Like I said, I'm not sure why some of these changes were made, but on a personal level, I do find them probably the most interesting of all the changes that happened between the book and the TV series. And the very last thing we're going to look at today is we're going to look at the opening of the book versus the opening of the TV show. The novel opens with a prologue in which a nurse is bringing a comatose Charlie Manx a new bag of blood, and he suddenly awakens and basically lays a bunch of threats on her, and it's all very, very spooky. I would say, however, that the TV series actually one-ups this opening in that it shows Manx and his assistant kidnapping the young boy Danny, which immediately lets us know what Manx is all about, and his assistant is all about, and immediately also lets us know what the fates of these very poor parents whose children are taken are. And it's quite a big, nice punch for the first episode, and it leads very, very nicely into the very stylistic opening credits, which are also awesome.
There's a nice list and a naughty list, and she's not on my naughty list.
You've been watching Grim Reader on RUE MORGUE TV, and I hope you've enjoyed the segment. Thank you so much for letting me gab about one of my absolutely favorite vampire novels. I'm happy to gab about vampire novels anytime, really. And I hope you're going to join me when I tune in to the first episode of NOS4A2 on AMC on June 2nd. And if you're dying to find out more about the Joe Hill book and the upcoming TV series, do pick up RUE MORGUE number 188, which features an interview with Hill and Jamie O'Brien. See you next time. And be sure to let me know what you think in the comments. I'm going to start that again.